Welcome back with another bang. It's the React Pals. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
Inside the New Orleans terrace home, you can see that it's been clearly destroyed, the door at least, from the FBI raid yesterday. But if we walk through the home, we see some signs of what he was up to. He had this work area here, lots of different chemicals splayed around, and different electronics. This is, again, a work setup. Left receipts, just very unkempt in here. If we go over here, actually, you can see the Department of Justice documents here, the search warrant, and the property that they recorded here, which seems to be a lot of chemicals. Again, just left in disarray. There's a bedroom back here, and what appears to be his collection of religious materials, his Qurans, an open Quran with a passage there, as well as even the Bible here, but mostly books on Islam, and his prayer rug just to the left of me here. And if we go back, there's another bedroom here. You can see he left all these belongings, contact lenses, personal belongings, bathroom. This seems to be some sort of workspace, again, with other chemicals here. The light's still on, some kind of station set up here. We're not really sure what that was for in, what we can assume was also a bedroom. You can see clothes left here, and just a sign that someone was here up until those last few moments when neighbors said he left just before the New Year's holiday, saying he was done with his lease, it was up, and he was on his way to New Orleans where he would live there. Didn't take any furniture because he said his new home would be furnished. That's all we know so far.
That's one very neat raid. Light was still on, everything still looks like it was in place. Even the documents on the table were nice and neat. I don't think I've ever seen a news agency inside of a home that's just been raided.
This is getting weirder and weirder. The more information that comes out about the New Orleans and the Las Vegas attack, the more it makes me question everything. For one, since when do authorities allow the New York Post to do an MTV Cribs walkthrough of the New Orleans attacker's home? Hey, over here, this was his explosive desk where he would make all of his explosives. Over here is his Quran. Look, right here is the FBI warrant with all the stuff they took. He also left some shirts behind. The Las Vegas attacker had an encrypted messaging app called Signal, and according to his friends, the day of the attack, his security number changed. And then after the explosion, his profile picture and his name changed. He didn't make it, so who was making those changes? Also, according to authorities, everything was incinerated in that blast, except, of course, for his forms of identification. Both his passport and his United States government identification somehow remained intact. Also, nobody's bringing up the fact that the New Orleans attacker rented this truck. Notice on the back of the bed, there's no flagpole. But he had time to assemble a flagpole and put it on the back of the truck and fly a crisis flag, minus the CR, from the back, and put a crisis flag in the interior of the cabin, just to let everybody know who he was standing with, as if he didn't have a lot of other things going on, like, planning attack, making sure he found the weakness in the barriers, planting coolers around town. And I'm not even mentioning the other crazy stuff, like the pew-pew wound to the head, and was he or was he not self-driven by a Cybertruck to the front of the hotel. But hey, that's in another video. You can watch that previously.
That's crazy. Shout out to WFF News. Said the same thing I said. Since we ain't do that MTV Crib stuff in a house that just been raided, and the warrants just lay nice and neat on the table.
Our subject is 37-year-old Matthew Livelsberger. He's of Colorado Springs, Colorado, born July 22nd of 1987. His body is burnt beyond recognition, and I do still not have confirmation 100% that that is the individual that was inside of our vehicle.
We're at the airport, posted up, midnight red-eye flight. Sarah Beans. No Maddie B.
Trying not to be weird.
Not to be weird.
Not allowed to be weird or embarrass him. I can't do that.
We're on our way.
Power Traveler.
Puerto Rico.
Power Traveler.
Costa Rica, it's the same thing, same place, same people, same food, same island.
No, it's not the same as Costa Rica. It's actually very different, I believe. It's a different place.
We're also continuing to investigate whether or not there's any connection between the New Orleans attack and the explosion in Las Vegas. As of now, they've just been briefed. They have not found any evidence of such a connection thus far.
Well, this rabbit hole just got deeper, didn't it? So it looks like the man that did it in New Orleans, the guy that was in the Tesla truck, both were in the same army base at the same time, okay? They served together. Coincidence? Here's another coincidence. You know the guy that was trying to get Trump on his golf course? He visited that army base, Fort Bragg, 147 fucking times, people. Now, I was sensing something was wrong with this guy in the Tesla truck over at Trump Tower. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I'm entitled to my opinions. But now this rabbit hole has gotten so deep that the guy that tried to take Trump on his golf course, the two army guys all were in Fort Bragg. The two army guys served together, and the guy that tried to get Trump on his fucking golf course visited that base 147 fucking times. What in the fuck is going on with Fort Bragg?
Whoa, that's the question of the day. Yo, what's up with Fort Bragg and all these connections? 147 times? Shout outs to the real White Rabbit 6. I agree, the plot is thickening.
Turns out that the New Orleans attacker and the Cybertruck Trump Tower Las Vegas attacker have more in common than just renting their cars from Turo. Let's get into it. They are both U.S. Army veterans. They both served in Afghanistan in 2009, and this one is just crazy. They both worked together at the same military base. They both had attacks that happened on New Year's Day, 2025. They both were unalived in those attacks. They both worked in IT, and wait, there's more. They both supported the Democratic Party. The New Orleans attacker made several contributions to Act Blue, a fundraising PAC for Democratic candidates. It's unclear exactly where the Las Vegas attacker stood, but thanks to Facebook, we know his wife was very anti-Trump and posted that on her page. And since he chose to carry out an attack in front of Trump Tower, I think they were on the same page. As if that's not enough, we could draw our own conclusions based on this shirt that he is wearing. I asked Grok if he could read the images of this shirt, and he said yes, it translates to Ukrainian, quote, glory to Ukraine. We all know what administration is very pro-Ukraine. Kind of reminds you of another attacker, doesn't it? I knew when we found out that they both rented cars from Turo that there was something more going on here. And it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. As more information comes forward, and I will let you know, but as always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
Wow, now that's fantastic journalism. Shout out to WFF News. Really getting to the bottom of it. That's crazy how she translated that shirt. And it's crazy how she found the money trail. You know how they say, you want to find something, just follow the money. Shout out to Ian Carroll. That's what she doing. Yeah, I'm staying tuned.
So I just was informed that the Cybertruck driver was actually not alive when he pulled up. He had a pew-pew wound. Just wanted to give you guys that update. As soon as I hear more, I will let you know. But that's... Those Cybertrucks drive themselves, you guys. Kind of goes back to that Sean Ryan interview with Sarah Adams, where she said they wanted to make it look like it was our own. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? So was that guy a target himself, or did he just not want to suffer? Because that would have been really painful. I imagine he may have done that to himself. They haven't said if there was a pew-pew in that car, though. I guess we'll find out, huh?
That's just a whole new twist to this, like, kind of craziness is that. He's right, the Cybertrucks do drive themselves.
We also discovered through the coroner's office that the individual had sustained a gunshot wound to the head prior to the detonation of the vehicle. One of the handguns was found at his feet inside of the vehicle.
Breaking news, the Las Vegas police have just announced that the Las Vegas Cybertruck attacker had a pew-pew wound to the head. And because he was in a Cybertruck that is self-driving, the question now is, did he sustain that injury just moments before the detonation or sometime earlier? The Las Vegas police said that this explosive was amateur and not what they would expect from an individual that has a military background, especially an ex-Green Beret, which raises a lot of questions. Like, was this his doing, or was his body self-driven to the site as some sort of a setup? Elon Musk has just announced that he has the Tesla team looking into this. They are going to Las Vegas to retrieve the in-cabin footage from the Cybertruck to see if they can find out when exactly this injury was sustained. They need the owner's approval to receive this in-cabin footage, but it looks like they are actively working on that now. As more details come forward, we will share them with you. But as always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
Yo, the cabin footage, if that's retrieved, whoa, that's definitely gonna answer a lot of questions. This one just took a real turn, for real, if the footage is able to be retrieved.
So I think we're under attack, and I have my reasoning for it if you want to stick around. The things that have been happening the past few days, not only do they seem connected, but I've been doing some research specifically in both the Las Vegas situation, but more importantly, the New Orleans situation. That guy who committed what he did in New Orleans, yeah, he seemed of sound peace of mind. He seemed like a regular person, in real estate. And I felt like I have good discernment, but I couldn't tell that something was wrong with him at all. And that's the definition of what people would like to call sleeper cells, meaning that we are infiltrated. And then obviously the situation in Las Vegas, as well as there was another huge incident this morning in New York. God be with their souls. I really hope that, we absolutely get our shit together here in a few weeks and just start cracking down on the crime, because this is getting out of hand.
I agree, it certainly seems like it. Shout outs to Hunter Alexander Howell. Looking at the video, I didn't see anything wrong with the dude as well. He looked like a regular person.
I do not believe in coincidence. I believe that everything that is happening right now is all connected. A few days ago, I made a video stating that I had this weird feeling of impending doom, like something big was going to happen, like something big was coming. Not even a few days after that, coming into the new year, there was a terror attack in New Orleans. After that, there was a situation at Trump Plaza where a Cybertruck blew up. Not long after that, we had a situation in New York City where there was a massive shooting at a nightclub. Today, I-85 in South Carolina was shut down due to a potential bomb threat. Not long after that, we had a situation at the Capitol where a guy was arrested due to a potential or suspected bomb under his car or something of that nature. I'm not sure if you guys caught the interview with Sean Ryan and Sarah Adams about 2 weeks ago, but it's kind of ironic how a lot of things that she mentioned in that interview is actually happening now. I'm not sure if so many of us is distracted with everything that has happened since the new year has came in and is only day 2. But y'all remember when those things was flying around and a lot of us was trying to figure out what were they doing here? Maybe that's all connected with everything that we're seeing now. So much have happened in the first 2 days of the year on American soil that it is absolutely crazy. Keep your eyes open and keep your ears open, because this is the tip of the iceberg, and trust and believe me, so much more is to come.
Yeah, she sure did say that. Shout out to Michelle Monique. I think a lot of people had bad feelings about that day, but just couldn't put their finger on what was happening. I'm telling you, Sarah Adams, whether you believe it or not, definitely something you might want to take a listen to.
Y'all, what is even going on? Now a bomb threat on I-85 in South Carolina? And I have many things to show you, unfortunately. Remember, I showed you the year started off with WTF. So yeah, they shut down I-85 because of this truck and a bomb threat. But do you know buildings are also smoking in New Orleans? I think I've seen 2 already, today, just today. Not including what just happened yesterday. Also, at the same exact time, we had a shooting at a mall in Austin, Texas. Texas, ring any bells? And we're not even talking about the connections between those 2 people from yesterday. And back to South Carolina, also today in South Carolina, at a Bojangles that I used to go to, an employee who started shooting people in the drive-thru. Do you remember 2 days before New Year's I told you people were starting not to act right? I told you that the thunder hitting the Empire State Building and the Capitol was a bad omen. By the way, someone saw something weird in this thunder. Do you see it? Oh, forgot to mention, planes are still falling out the sky and hitting buildings in California. And these all just happened within the last hour. It's almost like someone opened a portal. There's some bad voodoo on this year. Let me know what I missed.
Somebody did open a portal. Shout outs to the real Moon Henry. That truck with the bomb on 85 is crazy too. Right outside the Waffle House.
Today, the FBI briefed me that as of now, we have no information that anyone else is involved in the attack. They've established that the attacker was the same person who planted the explosives in those ice coolers in 2 nearby locations in the French Quarter just a few hours before he rammed into the crowd with his vehicle. They assess he had a remote detonator in his vehicle to set off those 2 ice chests.
The world will say that the Bible is just a fairy tale. It's just a storybook and that it's not real. And yet, everywhere that we look, there is actual physical evidence, proof that this book is not only true, but what is written in it actually happened. Today, we're going to go over some of the top archaeological finds that prove the Bible and also prove that this book is our true history. Starting off with one of the most recent from just 2 months ago, we have the earliest Jesus is God inscription ever found outside the Bible. Now, the phrase God Jesus Christ that is found on this inscription, of course, confirms what the Bible teaches, that Jesus Christ is God himself. He is a part of the Trinity and that he was sent to die for mankind. I do also find it interesting that this was found in Megiddo, which is the same valley that the Battle of Armageddon will be fought in. So it's almost like as we're entering into these last seconds of these last days, that Jesus is declaring his triumph in that valley. And of course, here are some Bible verses to support that Jesus is indeed God. John 8:58, Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I tell you, before Abraham was, I am." John 10:30, "I and the Father are one." John 20:28, Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Next, we're going to move on to 3 different inscriptions, the Merneptah stele, the Tel Dan stele, and the Mesha stele, all of which have inscriptions that detail events that are written in the Bible. And all 3 steles are dated to the exact time period that the Bible says they happened. Merneptah stele is dated to around 1205 BC, and it outlines Pharaoh Merneptah's military victories. And it contains the earliest undisputed extra-biblical reference to Israel to date. Next, we move on to the Tel Dan stele, which is dated to the 9th century and is the earliest known reference to the house of David. This inscription was actually found near the entrance gate of the city of Dan, and it was dated back to a Syrian king. And this inscription was essentially commemorating his victories over other biblical kings. This not only is the earliest reference to the house of David, this also references 8 other biblical kings. Now, the last inscription that we're going to look at is the Mesha stele. Now, this again is from the 9th century, and this is from a Moabite king that we read about in the book of 2 Kings in the Bible, King Mesha. Now, not only does it reference the story that we read about directly from the Bible in 2 Kings, it is the most extensive inscription ever recovered that refers to the kingdom of Israel. It bears also the earliest certain extra-biblical reference to the Israelite God, Yahweh. This is what the actual inscription says. So here it says, "Go take Nebo against Israel. And I went in the night and I fought against it from the break of day till noon. And I took it. And I took from it the vessels of Yahweh." Next, we're going to look at the recently discovered Pool of Siloam, where Jesus healed the blind man in the book of John.
believe this. So the explanation behind this place is if anybody going to the Temple Mount, which is right there where we just came from, if anybody's going there and you're a Jew in the Second Temple period, any Jew going up there had to purify themselves ritually. Like it says in the book of Acts, everybody came from different countries. So it says that they would come and they would have to purify themselves. So this was a giant pool, enough to accommodate this huge pilgrimage, the numbers of people who would come, purify themselves here, and then walk these steps. See these big steps? So there's supposed to be steps somewhere there going all the way up to the temple. Oh, wow. And when it says that Paul stood at the steps, the preach, when it says Jesus was at the steps, so this would be it. This is from the time of Jesus. So it's under the houses because you know how everything kind of built up on top, but they found those steps going all the way up, and they are excavating and clearing them and building safety rails so no houses will collapse on you while you walk them. So tourists will be able to do this same route that Jesus would have done 1,000 years ago up to the Temple Mount. They're doing it. The path of the pilgrims. Okay, we are walking on 2,000-year-old steps to the Temple Mount. This was the route used by pilgrims to ascend from the Siloam pool to the Temple Mount. The road was built on a grand scale and may have been dozens of meters wide.
I didn't think we were going to see this. Maybe it's just a small part of it. But
I got goosebumps. This is amazing.
You buy your lamb on your way up to sacrifice. So they have all these shops.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Here's a little bit better of a visual. Down here is where a pipe had actually burst that caused the initial excavations. Underneath the mess, they had noticed some steps. So they called in some archaeologists, they called in the Israel Antiquities Authority, and they began digging. And so they're currently in the process of uncovering this whole line of steps. So you and I can all visit it and walk the exact same steps that Jesus did up to the temple.
The Tower of Siloam. Do you remember in the Gospel of Luke chapter 13, Jesus speaks about a Tower of Siloam that collapsed, killing 18 people. Now, he mentions it for theological and spiritual reasons, but as an archaeologist, I'm asking, can we spot that?
Yeah.
And guess what? Some archaeologist, Nachshon Zanton from the City of David excavation, just came up with a proposal that next to the famous Pool of Siloam, there are indeed remains, foundations of a tower from Hellenistic times that had to be remodeled in early Roman times, meaning it was destroyed in the middle, just as Luke says, just as the Gospel of Luke records.
Now, because I could not fit all of this in one video, head over to part 2 for my absolute favorites. We'll have proof of the Exodus, including parting of the Red Sea. We'll have the split rock where God poured out water in the middle of the wilderness for the Israelites. We'll have the burnt mountaintop for Mount Sinai, Sodom and Gomorrah. And we'll have, of course, my absolute favorite, Noah's Ark.
Shout outs to Ashley Hayes 2.0. I'm a sucker for archaeology, so this was very fascinating. Definitely looking forward to part 2.
Welcome to part 2 of Proof of the Bible. We're going to jump right back into the Exodus. And everybody's pretty familiar with this story, right? Where Moses led the Israelites out of Egyptian bondage and he led them into the promised land. And we read about this story from 4 books in the Bible: Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And in the process of freeing the Israelites out of slavery, there were a lot of events that transpired, including the parting of the Red Sea, water being poured out from a split rock in the middle of the wilderness, fire being rained down from heaven, and much more. But is there any proof? So let's look a little bit at this story before we look at the proof. So this is in Exodus 14. Here we are in verse 16. God is talking to Moses here. He says, "Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen." Verse 21, "Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued them, and all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen followed them into the sea. During the last watch of the night, the Lord looked down from the pillar of fire and cloud at the Egyptian army and threw it into confusion. He jammed the wheels of the chariots so that they had difficulty driving. And the Egyptians said, 'Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them against Egypt.'" Now, is there any proof of this crossing? Why, yes, there is. So not only do we have actual chariot wheels and spokes that are all covered in coral throughout the Red Sea, they even found a multitude of horse hooves along with the chariot wheels and the axles, and everything is dated to that exact time period. But it doesn't stop there. King Solomon actually erected 2 pillars at the Red Sea commemorating this crossing. We see reference to this in Isaiah 19:19, and up at the top on the columns themselves, the Hebrew words Mizraim, which means Egypt, death, water, Pharaoh, Edom, Yahweh, and Solomon were all on the column. But we're still not done yet. There's actually proof of the pillar of fire.
And if you're familiar with what happens when sand is superheated, it becomes like glass. Well, you have exactly that right here on the shoreline of the Red Sea where the crossing happened. And it looks like some sort of magma that's hardened out, but this is melted sand. And when he elevates the camera and moves it around, you're going to see some really fascinating scenery. Let's skip forward a little bit right here. Check this out. This looks like wet sand at first. Look at this rock fused into this, looks like melted sand right here. And you can even see here, this looks like gravel, but it's packed tight, solid together, one piece like concrete, like it's been paved. And it has not been paved. And this looks like a little puddle of water. It's not. This is solid like glass. It's a smooth sheet of glass, pretty much. It's not ice. And there's a stone right here that's been fused into this back when this happened. Amazing.
And it takes about 3,000 degrees or more to melt that sand. And it's evenly melted. You can almost see like footprints. There's stones infused in this melted sand. This is amazing. You don't hear about it. If it was a proof of evolution, it would be in every single textbook.
One of the next substantial events in the Exodus after the Red Sea crossing is the split rock at Horeb, where God provided water in the middle of the wilderness for the Israelites. The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile. And go, I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel.
What a peaceful day, guys. We're here at the base, the western side of the Jebel Allah's range. And at this side, you have this big split rock that's on a 70-foot or so hill. The rock itself is about 70 feet tall. It has a big split through it. Now, we know in the Bible that the last stop before they get to Mount Sinai was Rephidim, and that this was the area that they fought the Amalekites. The water came out of the rock, and Jethro showed up with Moses' family.
To go and touch that rock. Oh my gosh. Also in this area on Mount Sinai is a burnt mountaintop where God descended with fire, where he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And right at the base of that mountaintop, which is the only burnt mountaintop in the entire area, by the way, there is a spot where they theorize the golden calf was worshipped, and it even has drawings all over it. All over it to signify what they did there. Moving right along, most of us are very familiar with the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, where the Lord rained down sulfur balls. But again, is there any proof? Well, of course there is, because the Bible is true. So in the exact area that Sodom and Gomorrah would have been located, we find a complete ashy layer just beneath the surface. In this ashy layer, there is warped human bones and burnt pottery. And in this area, we also find a very large cemetery consisting of about 500,000 people. And in these graves, you will also find the warped bones, which led archaeologists to conclude that this was indeed a natural event. And of course, last but not least, we find 100% pure sulfur balls all over the area. Now, last but not least, my absolute favorite, Noah's Ark, Genesis 7. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. We also read that the ark rested in the mountains of Ararat. Now, not only do we find petrified wood in the shape of a boat in the exact location that the Bible says, it's also to the exact measurements that the Bible says. This wood and the metal that is found within it is actually dated to the exact time period that the flood would have happened. Digital scans also reveal the shape of a boat that goes down beneath the surface. You can even see the protruding deck joists here. Another view here and over there. And there as well. Radar scans also reveal that there are chambers beneath the surface and there are 90-degree angles, there are cross angles. It is a boat. You can also see here where they mapped out where all the metal is on here to hold it all together. Also fossilized marine life all over the area, fossilized rivets. We have proof of the pitch, even the glue that Noah used to put the ark together. And to top it all off, there's even ancient anchor stones all over the area. Now, I know for most of the world, the Bible is just a storybook. It's just a fairy tale. It's not real. But yet everywhere that we look, all over the entire world, there is actual physical proof of the stories that are written. And I know how most people want to take one or two or even a few of these stories and just blow it off and say that scholars have debunked it. But I would challenge them and ask, at what point do all of these things stop being coincidence? At what point are they going to realize that they are looking at the proof that they constantly ask for?
She makes a very compelling argument. Shout out to Ashley Hayes 2.0. Wow, part 2 is fascinating. This is mind-blowing. I feel like they taught this in school, I would have paid more attention. From Noah's Ark to Sodom and Gomorrah, especially the Ark, you know, like, wow.
And that picture was observed at about 7:34 a.m. You can see the Cybertruck highlighted there. So through extensive surveillance video, we were able to track him leaving there, and we know that he went to several different places along Las Vegas Boulevard. That's north on the boulevard from Sands at 8:39, where he then immediately heads to the Trump Hotel, pulls into the valet area, and as of course you all know, the explosion occurs within 17 seconds of his arrival at the valet.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you haven't already, please take a second
just to smash that like, subscribe, ring that notification bell,
just to make sure the algorithm knows what's up. So what we're gonna do, y'all? That's right, run these numbers up. Thanks again. Till next time.